like to call together meeting, the first meeting of the year. If you wouldn't mind, would you please rise with us as we provide an invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Dear Father, as we embark upon a new year, guide our efforts. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome to your January 8th, 6 p.m. meeting. We're glad that you're here. Have a nice crowd this evening. With that, Board, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the December 18th, 2012 meeting.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Proclamations, presentations. Shows that we have no proclamations and no presentations, but that would not be correct. Because after all, we have just one small one. Miss Outlaw's looking at me like, what do we have tonight? So, just as a nice little thank you for the last chair that we had serving the Board of County Commissioners, we thought it would be a little beholden to try and extend just a small token of our appreciation for the service that was provided, and also as a way to maybe carry on a neat little tradition. And so with that, we actually took one of our staff that actually has an environmental collection of environmental photos he has taken throughout the county, and we'd like to provide this to our former chair, Chris Zadowski.
Wow.
And it's from your staff. In addition,
Good job. I thought it was a box of Kleenex.
close.
It
Could be
is,
a box
yeah.
of Kleenex. That's right. In addition, as a piece that you can then place in your office, we picked you up your own gavel as well that has your name on it and the time that you served as chairs.
Wow.
Thank you. Improvise. That was a nice little camera. So.
And this is very nice, and thank you very much. I appreciate it. Unexpected. And thank you very much.
There you go, buddy. Any other presentations that anybody else would like to pop on the audience tonight? Good, thank you. With that, we're going to turn to general public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board this evening, please do so at this time. We'd like to have your name and address for the record. Good evening.
Good evening, Commissioners, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you. My name is Sally Ann Berquist. I live in the county on Del Prado Street, and some of you have already heard me here before talking about the no-kill movement in the United States and how various counties here in the state of Florida are moving closer and closer to becoming no-kill counties. I've prepared for each of you a packet. Did you receive them? They're at the, perhaps they're still at the end? They're at this end. Inside, the important thing I've come to share with you this evening is from the Bradenton Herald, page 1 article that was issued on December 24th of last year, Christmas Eve. And no-kill nears its goal. Manatee County becomes a role model of the cause. There are a number of counties in our state, including Broward and Pasco and Hillsborough, Miami-Dade, Leon, and Duval counties. I also hear Brevard is moving in this direction. So I'm hoping you will take some time, when it's a better time for you than right now, to read about this article. And I'm wondering, you also have on the cover of your folder that I presented to you, there is a newsletter called the No Kill Community Newsletter. And I know that Jack Southard and Tiffany Bennett have made that newsletter available to their Shelter Standards Review Committee for each of them to keep apprised of this subject matter, which is adopting the no-kill sheltering model. So I'm wondering, Commissioners, the beginning of this new year, who might amongst you be able to contact the editor of this newsletter to state where we are in our county in our progress towards becoming a no-kill community? I have a very nice rapport with the Humane Society. I've been meeting with them from time to time. We're planning to do just one day again this year. We're going to do it again. And Jack Southard and Tiffany Bennett want us all to take baby steps towards one another and to build a stronger bridge. And tomorrow, a terrier named Elton, who has a little bit of a rap sheet at the Humane Society, he bit a child in a household, but the people told a lie when animal control was called. They said they have only one child. They had 4 under the age of 10. So I found out that Elton has a bad rap sheet, and Jay Apicella of Dogs and Cats Forever is going to take Elton tomorrow, and David Robertson is personally bringing Elton. It's a baby step. So I ask again, can one of you please, I don't know who would be willing to do this editor of the No Kill Community newsletter, she should know what we're doing here in our county. There are about 8 other counties already working towards this. Just to say we've got our toe in the water. Is there anyone that might be able to do that or relay that off? Are we anywhere near getting into becoming a no-kill community?
I know, Ms. Berquist, from my perspective, I think we have been making a little more than baby steps as it relates to the efforts, but obviously it's been a collective effort. In fact, even this past week, there are other advocates that are pushing even in other directions. So I think the entire community is collectively beginning to look at these various issues, and you're seeing these develop. And I love the fact that both Dogs and Cats Forever as well as the Humane Society have continued to try and strive to find solutions to make our community stronger in this particular area, and to, as always, send out press releases and to do the documentation that need to do. And I know that Jack and his staff as well are trying to do all that they can to help support those efforts.
Okay, I'm just hoping that soon we'll be able to have our name out there as a county working towards this in writing somewhere. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Berquist. Anyone else wishing to address the board? Good evening.
Good evening, Commissioner Mowry. John Arena, Fort Pierce. The Fort Pierce Inlet was designated a deep water port long before it was understood that the Indian River Lagoon is the most biodiverse estuary in North America. Did you know the lagoon is home to over 400 species of fish, 1/3 of the U.S. manatee population, all 7 species of seagrass found in Florida, over 4,000 plant and animal species, 36 rare and endangered animal species, 310 species of birds, the most diverse bird population in North America. A number of fish species depend on the lagoon with the seagrasses and mangroves to spawn. When they become subadults, they return to the ocean. Excuse me. Skip that one. The prince of the mega yacht world and a 5-star hotel chain wanted to develop our port and was snubbed twice. Perhaps they should be given another opportunity. Our lagoon has suffered 100 years of abuse. It is now 20% damaged and is in need of restoration. When the pioneers first came here, the lagoon had a white sandy bottom from shore to shore. The lagoon bottom now wears a sheet of muck from upland development. This material could be shaved from the natural white sandy bottom. During the hurricanes of 2004, I had almost 3 feet of lagoon water above the crown of the road in front of my home because of the ship's channel. The channel needs to be brought to a depth of 20 feet to give us some protection. During World War II, the ship's channel was 12 feet deep, and South Beach bulged out almost to the tip of the jetty. The Navy had tents and structures out there. For these reasons and others, I believe our inlet should be developed as a mega yacht port and luxury yacht port, accompanied by the 5-star hotel. If the ship's channel were to be deepened for a cargo port, future storm surges could inundate the northeast quadrant of the city. It would be like a mini New Orleans. During World War II, and for some years afterward, you could drive along a wide beach provided by nature all the way to the Stewart Inlet. The logical place to build a cargo port would be North Florida, to take advantage of the economics of shipping and direct access to Interstate 10. At first blush, a cargo port here seems like a good idea. However, after studying the possibilities for some 20 years, it becomes totally obvious to me that an expanded cargo port here would be a mistake. Years ago, I spoke with the then Vice President of Indian River College and was told they would provide classes to fill jobs at a mega yacht port. I would assume that would hold true today. The present depth of the ship's channel is just above the very fine Pleistocene gray clay strata, which would be easily lifted into the water column and carried 8 miles north into the lagoon and 8 miles south into the lagoon to be added onto the bottom muck layer. Modern cargo ports have become semi-automated. A machine can now do the work of 50 men. For the safety of the people of Fort Pierce, especially considering rising sea levels, the ship's channel needs to be filled with sand to a depth of 15 or 20 feet. Along with shipping ports being about the worst thing that can happen to a sensitive water body, port cities around the world have additional air pollution problems. When the ship's channel was made larger, the Corps of Engineers also excavated the half funnel in the ocean much larger. This system also accommodates storm surge and could funnel the ocean to flow a mile inland, with the buildings helping to stop it. If the marine engineer who designed it lived in that section of the city, he would have thought twice about it. Regardless of what gets said here, the people of St. Lucie County will eventually pay for a cargo port. If we get a mega yacht port here, luxury yachts will be taking passengers out on cruises into blue water. That alone will bring wealthy tourists and wealthy new homeowners, home buyers, to our county. Out on South Beach, they are starting to jack houses up by 5 feet. If the Corps adjusts the ship's channel to 20 feet, that may not be necessary. The world has gotten to the threshold where environmental issues have become paramount. Do we want to be on the tail end of the parade? The global warming theory has become reality for all of us in the past few years. Along with rising oceans, we are only a few feet above it. Let's keep that in mind while deciding the direction we will take. For these reasons and others, I think a cargo port expansion would be a mistake. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arena, and I gladly provide you with a few extra minutes, realizing that you are so diligent at coming up and providing us with comments, and you're always very brief with those. But thank you for your comments. And I realize you are probably aware that we're going to be discussing the port issue tonight as well, so you may want to stick around to listen to that. Good evening.
Good evening. Pat Pacitti from Port St. Lucie. I wasn't prepared to speak this evening, but John opened up the door, and I would just like to share what I have in my mind, what I would love to see happen to the port. The port area has got the estuary, which is, as you all know, is the most biodiverse in North America.
But before we actually go on further on this topic, Board, how would you all like to deal with discussions on the port? Do you want to wait until that item comes and actually accept comments? We don't actually have that as a public hearing tonight. But how would you all like to proceed on that?
If they want to speak now and they have to leave, sure. If they want to stay,
That would be my one concern if there was somebody that needed to leave prior to that.
Okay.
So.
I agree.
Great. Thank you, Pat.
It's just sharing an idea. I know that Commissioner Hutchinson has mentioned education. Mega Yacht is excellent, but to turn this into a world-class environmental education destination is an opportunity that no other area has. You have the history, you've got the Smithsonian, you know everything that you have in the port area that could make that happen. Thank you. It's just sharing what I can see for that port that I know would work. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Anyone else wishing to address the board tonight?
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good
Happy
evening.
New Year to you all.
Happy New Year.
Dolores Johnson, 429 North 19th Street, Fort Pierce. I had been awaiting the continuation of the discussion on the port, and of course this morning's headline in our daily paper, and that was fine. The Fort Pierce OK's update to port plan. That was fine. The little small writing got me a little more concerned. The county also expected to approve update that could garner cargo port expansion. And I just want to just briefly remind, without being redundant over statements that have been made, but I think I've spoken with you all individually at some point in time regarding our position. I'm president of the St. Lucie Waterfront Council, and just looking forward to the discussions that will take place, the public input, keeping us ever mindful of the jewel that we have, and on so many levels, and the possibilities from an economic standpoint. But as we progress through this, that development has to be both economically and ecologically sustainable, whatever happens. And let's keep that in mind. And I appreciate the deliberations that will be coming forward. And I urge all the citizens, as many as can, once the dates and everything and the venues are advertised, to come out. We started this battle, this journey, back in 1995, and I've battled cancer and everything else. But I love my county, and I love what God has given us, and it's been degraded so much now, and we cannot allow it to be degraded any further. Development, yes, but make sure that it's for the best of St. Lucie County. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Anyone else wishing to address the board?
Hello, my name is Dr. Kenneth Bridges. I live in Port St. Lucie on Fairwood Court. I'm a member of the Sundancers Radio Control Club, and I wanted to take this opportunity to thank the commissioners as well as the St. Lucie County Council members who supported our relocation from within the city limits to the county limits on Germany Canal. I've been a member of the Sundancers for about 12 years. We have had over 300 members, and we're growing. We now have a lake that's stocked with fish. We have 2 runways for the model airplanes, a helicopter pad, as well as we're starting to construct a RC car track. We are providing an outlet or recreation for children as well as senior citizens, and we've done a fantastic job. I passed out a trifold we haven't completed our construction of this, but after 2 years, we've accomplished a lot in that period of time. And I just wanted to say thank you for your cooperation, consideration, and making this a realistic event. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bridges. Good evening.
Good evening. Happy New Year, Commissioners.
Happy New Year.
Bonnie Howard, Lakewood Park. Marijuana now. When you voted against the legalization of marijuana, do you realize what you voted for? Drug cartels, the alcohol and tobacco industries, big pharma, unscrupulous lawyers, high recidivism rate jailing of the nonviolent, guards, judges, cops, growers, and all the profiteers and corruptors of our judicial system. Marijuana is not dangerous, it's grossly profitable. Florida seniors want it legalized. We no longer want to be kept sick for profit, strung out on toxic pharmaceuticals that kill 100,000 people every year. We don't want the dangers of alcohol that kill 500,000 and tobacco that kills another 500,000. Allow Florida medical marijuana a vote. It will pass. So what are the dangers of pot that are so stubbornly and tenaciously defended? How many children are hypocritically poisoned with unnecessary pharmaceuticals, setting them up for an abusive life ahead? You say you're protecting us? Hardly. We are thrown in jail, wondering what we did wrong, barred from education, purpose, and direction, lives forever destroyed, not from pot, but having life wasted under an antagonistic and unjust system. How about we recriminalize the deadly drug, alcohol? If the system really cared to benefit us, it would allow herbs, acupuncture, massage, homeopathy, alternatives that are moral, ethical, and proven to have no deadly side effects. We blindly contribute to such profitable failures as the Cancer Institutes and the American Diabetes Association that ignore prevention and safe alternatives. Cannabis has been in the Chinese pharmacology for 4,000 years. Our conventional medicine has had a mere 200 years of experience. Has anyone ever died from pot since Washington and Jefferson grew it? No. Madison, Monroe, Jackson, Taylor, Pierce, Lincoln, Kennedy, Carter, Bush, Clinton, and Obama are all U.S. presidents who used cannabis for recreational and medicinal purposes. Let's light the peace pipe now. And with the port, please prioritize strong consideration for our environment in all these decisions towards the port. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Howard. Anyone else wishing to address the board this evening? Seeing no movement, we'll close general public comment. Turn to the board for the consent agenda. Is there any item that the board wishes to pull? By the way, just for note, item B5, that has been pulled prior to the meeting.
Mr. Chairman, there's not an exact or a definite, how shall I say it, a confirmed conflict on C1, but under the advice of the attorney, I will be abstaining.
Move approval of C1.
Have a motion to approve C1. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that item? Hearing no motion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Remainder of the consent agenda, any other item any board member wishes to have pulled?
Mr. Chairman, move approval.
Have a motion, and is there a second?
Second.
It's been motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. With that, let's move to item 7. There are no public hearings this evening. And if the board wouldn't mind, I'd actually like to have us take item 9 which is our amendment to the investment policy, and I'd like to move that up as our next item if the board would allow me to do so.
Please do.
Great. Our clerk or Shay?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be handling this, and if the clerk or the finance director have any comments or perhaps can answer questions, that would certainly be appropriate. Pursuant to Florida law, counties that have custody of public funds are required to develop an investment policy adopted by the Board of County Commissioners. We have done so. We periodically amend it based on the recommendation of a committee, an investment committee, and the clerk, as well as the finance director. There are proposed changes to the investment policy, which are attached to draft resolution number 13-005 as Exhibit A. The investment committee met in December of last year and voted to recommend approval of the proposed changes. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you. Would our honorable clerk like to provide any comments?
Mr. Chairman, honorable members of the Board of County Commissioners, good evening and Happy New Year to you all. Thank you so much. Mr. Chairman, Mr. McIntyre explained what our issues are. We're just trying to do some housekeeping issues, and of course, as always, safety first, secondary liquidity, and third, yield. We're attempting to make some changes that would maximize our yield at this time with the markets.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chairman.
Good to see you as well.
Mr. Clerk, can you share with us your latest award? I think you just received an award of late.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Zadowski. The clerk's office and the professionals of the clerk's office just received 2 awards, actually. One for a certificate for achievement in performance in our government finances. The way that we report our finances to the public, we received the yearly CAFR that I'm always speaking about, the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, received an award for outstanding production and the way that we present the information to you as a board and to the public, and also the PAFR, which is our popular annual financial report, received the same award, and we will be happy to present that to the Board of County Commissioners in a few months, I think, Ms. Francis. A few weeks, even closer. So I'll be coming bearing gifts for you in just a little while.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any discussion by the board?
Move approval, staff recommendation.
We have a motion to move staff recommendation. Is there a second?
There's a second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Doing in like order, I'd actually like to have us take item number 10 and make that as our next item, and then we'll move back to item 8.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will take the lead on presenting item 10, which is an addition to tonight's agenda. It specifically is a request for the board approval of budget amendment number 13-001, requesting an increase to the Supervisor of Elections 2013 adopted budget from $2.29 million to $2.5 million. As the board's backup indicate, this matter was discussed by the board and the Supervisor of Elections and county staff at the informal meeting this morning. Specifically, the items relate to unanticipated costs that the Supervisor of Elections office incurred since adoption of the 2013 budget, which went into effect October 1, 2012. The unanticipated costs total $305,120.31, which is broken down in attachment 1, which I apologize was not in the packet, but we do have the copies, and I'm going to ask Missy to pass out attachment 1. The board saw this attachment at the informal meeting this morning. The lion's share of the unanticipated costs, approximately $300,000, is in connection with the 2012 general election, and the remainder of the unanticipated costs relate to an employee payout of accrued comp and vacation time. As is indicated, Florida statute 129.20 permits the board to increase the supervisor of elections budget to cover expenses for justifiable emergency and unanticipated expenses such as those that we have discussed this morning. Accordingly, the supervisor of election has requested the board to do just that by approving a budget amendment to cover the subject unanticipated costs. As the board directed this morning, we were intending to bring this item back at your next meeting, January 15th, for consideration, but given a conflict that the supervisor has, as she will be in Tallahassee, related to testifying on elections matters, we got the direction from the board to add it as an addition tonight. Attachment 2 is, in fact, the budget amendment 13-001, which, if approved by the board, would increase the Supervisor of Elections 2013 adopted budget. The additional funds, the $305,000, would be taken from the county's general fund contingency account. That account has a current balance of $1.7 million, and as I indicated to the board earlier this morning, the board policy is to maintain the contingency account at $1 million. We were in a position a couple of years back to add the additional $700,000, which is why the account exceeds the $1 million threshold set by the board. With that, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the recommendation is for board approval of budget amendment number 13-001, increasing the Supervisors of Elections 2013 adopted budget from $2.2 million to the $2.5 million. And with that, if there are questions from the board, the Supervisor of Election is here to address those questions, as is staff.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question just from Ms. Outlaw, which I spoke briefly to. I received an email late, like 10 minutes before the meeting, and just for the record, there was a comment made in that email, and I apologize, I didn't bring it with me, that we should be looking at the supervisor's contingency, which I just want to put publicly out there. To my knowledge, we do not, none of the constitutionals carry a contingency within their budget. That is part of, all wrapped into ours. Is that not correct, Mrs. Outlaw?
Commissioner Hutchinson, members of the board, now I'm not going to say factually about what is in the other constitutional budgets. I believe that is the case, but I can state as a matter of fact that there is no contingency funding in the Supervisor of Elections budget.
Right.
I just don't have the other ones in front of me to speak factually.
And I apologize for that, and we did discuss that, but I was under the impression it was all the way across the board. But having said that, in this specific issue, the supervisor does not, and even reviewing back into 09, I think all the contingency had been taken out from way back even then. And within her budget, that she does not carry one.
Right, and then anything that was not spent in that year was often returned as well back to the county board.
Right.
Yes, any unused funds that the constitutionals have at the end of the fiscal year are returned to the Board of County Commissioners. They do not retain those funds within their budgets. And when you look at the data on the Supervisor of Elections budget over the 10-year period, while that budget has been consistently being reduced, at that same time, we have gotten back returned unused funds each year, and I think the total over the 10-year period is about $700,000 plus that the supervisor has returned to the board because those funds were not used.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Walker, as well. Would you like to provide comments this evening?
While she's coming up, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Hutchinson, I also got that email as well, and there was a reference to filing fees that the candidates pay and so on and so forth, investigating that through. Those funds are not something that the supervisor gets to keep.
I was going to get there and cover that too, but I was going to let Ms. Walker have the opportunity to address that.
Thank you.
To the Honorable Chairman, Commissioner Mowry, and members of the board, thank you for this opportunity to to come before you, and I appreciate so much your consideration of the request to amend my budget. This was an extraordinary election by anyone's estimation, and I certainly do appreciate your consideration. There's a question that was posed by Commissioner Zadowski as to the candidates' qualifying fees. And all of that goes either to the political party and, of course, to the Elections Commission. The majority to the state party, about 2% of that to the two-thirds of it to the state party, and then the county party, and also the Elections Commission gets a portion of that to enforce election laws. And that's where those funds go. It's just a pass-through from my office to the state and to the parties.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. I wanted to also give you an opportunity to describe the budget request if you wanted to say anything in addition to what Ms. Outlaw provided for this evening.
Thank you, Mrs. Outley. She's very thorough in her analysis of the request that I made. It was funds that were necessary to expend in order to conduct the election. The invoices for those expenditures must be paid, and I certainly appreciate the Commission allowing me to request the contingency funds so that I can continue to operate my office and my budget. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to, and I certainly appreciate that. I don't feel the need to expound on any of the other individual sections in the request unless it's specifically asked for by one of the commissioners.
I think the public needs to at least realize from an expense standpoint that you have several areas where the expenses are noted, and the fact that you have some expenses related to the recount that took place, retabulation, as well as you have expenses more particularly related to the actual ballot change that occurred this year as a result of the state legislature. And so just giving you that opportunity to be able to highlight that so that the public doesn't develop misconceptions about perhaps what your request is.
Very good. I appreciate that, Commissioner Maury. It is important that the public realize that the legislature made a decision this year in an effort to place on the ballot legislative initiatives. The law actually gives a 75-word limit to constitutional amendments that are placed on the ballot. And the legislature made a decision not to send the constitutional amendment to the Supreme Court for approval of the 75 words, because in the law it also gives you the option, if you do not have that approved by the Supreme Court, you can put the full text, or the legislature can put the full text of the constitutional amendment and bypass the approval of the Supreme Court. The legislature decided to do that and therefore increase the size of the ballot for the entire state. For the first time in every county, there was multiple ballots. And so the cost of a ballot is actually the cost of the election, because everyone receives a ballot in order to cast a vote, and when you multiply the ballots, you multiply the cost of the election. So for that reason, we had additional expenses incurred specifically for the ballot cost, for the mailing of the ballots, for the printing of those ballots. We budgeted for one, and of course we ended up with 2 ballots, and I had to make accommodations to ensure that the election ran smooth, even though the ballot had been multiplied. And so that really is the really crux of, or the important fact about the budget amendment. Also, a number of other changes took place. With number one, the early voting days being limited, more people were going to be turning out at the polls, and so I made some accommodations for that with the electronic voter ID system, which Indian River and Martin County implemented probably 4 to 8 years ago. And it gives extremely good transparency in the election process to ensure that everyone has one vote and that no one can abuse the system because of the connectivity. And that's the main focus of the budget amendment. I appreciate the opportunity to express that, Commissioner Mallory.
I think it's just important for the public to be able to hear and understand that aspect, realizing that when the budget was adopted, it was still unclear as to how large the actual ballot would be. And in that particular sense, when the ballot did come forward as a two-page, which that, unless I've misunderstood something, I don't believe it's ever been a two-page ballot with the length that it was.
No, there's never been a two-page ballot in St. Lucie County. That was...
Which in turn caused several discrepancies from the members of the public where people, in fact, I just saw another email that came out from Bill O'Reilly where it was being shown on the blog that, voter turnout in St. Lucie County was a representation of fraud because we had higher than 100% voter turnout, when, as we all know, that wasn't the fact. It was in reality that because of it being a two-page ballot, those 2 pages, each page was counted as a vote because of the nature of the system and the way it's set up. So when people see a higher than 100% voter turnout, it was only a result of the fact that that was 2 pages. So that meant we did have a higher number of ballots that were being turned in, not a higher number of actual voters that were turning out.
I appreciate that that explanation, because that became quite an issue, and it wasn't just in our county, and it was in about 8 or 10 counties in the state. Also had 150, 140, and percentages of turnout, because our systems were designed so long ago until a ballot actually was a person, and you could predict the turnout of the election based on the number of ballots. But because the system was designed so long ago, there was no accommodation made for the fact that a voter could have multiple ballots, and so the system does not accommodate for that, and so the percentage of turnout for St. Lucie County was 141%, and that did cause a tremendous amount of confusion with the added confusion caused by so many of the candidates and also the supporters questioning that as far as the Allen West campaign was concerned, and the Murphy campaign. That was a really big issue, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk about that.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board at this point related to Ms. Walker?
Well, like I stated previously, Ms. Walker, first of all, in spite of, you've done this for 9 terms, and in spite of what happened, we didn't hear any volunteer leaks or what was going on the inside. Everything stayed professional, and I did have a conversation with you as well, and one of the things that you said, there were some things that you felt like you all could have done and that you're going to do moving forward, and you did take the recommendations serious given down from the state, and just leadership responsibility. And I felt that from you, and I really appreciate that. And another thing, I just thought it was great leadership to deal with the situation. Leaders are born during difficult situations, not when everything is going smooth and good. And so I really appreciate that. And that's, like I said earlier previously, a part of St. Lucie County's grit. We don't die, we multiply, we continue, and we fight until we get it right. And I want to commend you and your staff on getting it right and making an effort to make it right and put the right people in office.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson, and I want to take this opportunity again to thank the board for their support, to thank Commissioner Mallory for his leadership on the canvassing board in my absence, and when I was there, he was a true leader. He took the situation by the horns, and he really showed tremendous leadership, tremendous passion for getting that job done correctly, and worked so closely with my staff. I must commend my staff as well for their tenacity and for their working under pressure and for putting in those 16, 17, 18-hour days that it took to conduct this election. This is the first time we've ever had a 12-hour day for early voting. For 8 days consecutive, my staff had to be there when the early voting workers went to work and stay until they finished their work in the evening. That was 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, whenever they finished. And they were dedicated to that, and they did the job. And then it didn't end on Election Day. It intensified, and 11 days later, they were still working with Commissioner Mowry to make sure that every vote was counted. And I want to thank him publicly for his work on the board and for all of the members of the canvassing board for the work that they did for the citizens of this community. My hats go off out to you in my heart, and I appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman. Ms. Walker, one of the concerns I've had for some time, not just about your office, I'm talking about government as a whole, our county government. We have been slashing offices and staff, and we have not spent money on equipment and capital projects for some time. I have had a concern, for instance, we've had recent failures of culverts that probably would have, should have been replaced some time ago if we had had the money. I'm surprised that equipment failures didn't happen sooner, whether it be the Board of County Commissioners equipment or your voting equipment or some of the equipment we use in our Public Works Department and so on. The one difficult thing that we have as Board of County Commissioners is trying to determine what is the proper funding for the proper taxation for the proper services for this community. It's something that we all struggle with on a daily, weekly, yearly basis. I'm surprised that this is the first time that this has happened in the number of years in which you've been in your position. I commend you for basically taping together the memory cards, for goodness sakes. That should not have to happen. We should properly fund our constitutional officers. We should properly fund the Board of County Commissioners' offices and make sure that the services that we provide are adequate and appropriate for our community. I hope that moving forward, I think that we've seen the challenges you've faced from trying to string together 1996 equipment for this long, and we know the technology today, your telephone is good today, and a year later it's being replaced. Technology has a short shelf life, and we have to begin to think about how we fund the constitutional officers and how you budget. But as importantly, you and I have had heart-to-heart conversations, and you have identified clearly some of the challenges that your office has faced, and you assured me, as you have this board, that you're going to take appropriate action to move forward to secure the confidence of this community as you have for all these many years. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Zadowski. Your comments are very much appreciated, and I know the balancing act that the board has to go through every budget year, because there are so many needs, and the available funds are shrinking. Hopefully they're on the upswing again, but I am very cognizant of that, and of course, as Commissioner Outlaw said, as County Administrator Outlaw said, that I, every year, any unexpended funds, and I do try to make sure that I don't expend it all if I can help it, so that I can assist the county in maintaining services everywhere. Sometimes I feel that I kind of neglect my staff because they do work very hard, and I feel after this election and all of the work that they had to do, I felt like, oh my goodness, maybe I've pinched too many pennies and really hadn't rewarded them for the work that they do, but I know that that is something that the county is concerned about, and so that we will work towards making sure that all of the county employees are treated fairly and treated the same, and that they are compensated for the hours of work that they put in. I appreciate your consideration of that at budget time. Thank you so very much.
Any other comments from the board members?
Mr. Chairman, just real quick, I think it would behoove all of us to acknowledge the fact that today, in our informal, even though we know it, the public's not aware of it, so I don't mean to be repetitious to you all. But one of the things Ms. Walker has agreed to is that, as we earlier had counted out, and I've asked for this to be put up on the machine, but unfortunately can't be scanned in fast enough. What we're looking at is the difference of the things that, as we discussed, are being looked at as being unfunded state mandate cost, and that you have agreed to work with us, not just on our county, but at the county as a whole, as your association of supervisors would work, is to try to get the state to reimburse some of those funds back to us. And I think that's only in fairness, and that's going to take a partnership between the supervisor's office and ours statewide, that they at least acknowledge that fact. If they're not going to reimburse this year, then at least in the future that they need to start putting the funds in there, because I know they have too started cutting back the sharing that they usually do with the supervisors in the state's budgets. And just quick notes, and this is just a personal comment. When I looked back at your budgets again, and it's so many times I've looked at them this week, from 2010's election cycle to the 2012, your budget, give or take, was cut almost $317,000, which is a little less than what she's requesting. So I think that needs to be pointed out. As far as, pardon me?
I said that's a great point.
So maybe we have reached that point where we've cut too much. Maybe during those election cycles we need to be open in conversation with the supervisor that those particular years, their budget is going to need to be higher for those possible overruns that we face today.
I think you need to actually take it a step further. It's actually the lowest budget that she's had in 7 years. And so if you go all the way back, it's the lowest in 7 years.
But I was looking at the cost of elections.
Assuming that the election costs are the same for administering an election, she's down at that point. But then midway through the cycle is when we had the request to now make it a 2-page ballot. So that automatically meant the postage went up because they could no longer, submit their ballot at 45 cents. It went to 65 cents, which they weren't planning on that. The number of sheets that they had to print because of it being a 2-page ballot, all of those things. So in essence, think about the fact that she would have been able to administer the lowest budget ever.
Yes.
However, because those other costs came along, she is now adding costs back in. Now, with that being said, I do think there are a couple of those areas, though, that were questionable items, 2 in particular that Ms. Walker discussed, and one was her decision to go with the voter registration systems, the reporting software, that due to some concerns that happened in the primary, and that was an additional cost, which I believe the jury is still out as to whether or not that was a success or not. Your staff has been evaluating it, and I believe you're working with the vendor as well, because I don't think you were as happy with the results of the election night reporting software upgrade that should have been provided. And then the second one was the electronic voter ID system, and then the decision to move forward in that particular area. The only other item that I saw that had been a concern from my perspective, and I discussed that at length with the supervisor, was the issue as related to the legal fees and the decision that came along. But what, again, should be noted is that she, because of the way situations were developing, ended up obtaining some legal counsel to assist the supervisor's office in that area. However, the other constitutional officers, except for the clerk, already all have either contract counsel that helps them on a regular basis, or actually in-house counsel, which most of the other constitutionals have in-house legal counsel in place, whereas the supervisor has not had that as a part of her repertoire, and so that was the first time that came along. So with all those items being said, I think that adds to your picture. Are there other comments that we have from the board at this time? Seeing none, is there a motion?
There's a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion on the item? Hearing none, with all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carried.
Thank you so much, Commissioners. I appreciate it, and I'll continue to work hard for the county and to do the best that I can to ensure that our voting process continues the high standard that we've had over the years. Thank you so much.
I know this has been a challenging time, and I know that it's been difficult. I trust that as you get the final report and the matters worked out with the state in Tallahassee with the hearings, that you will be successful as you continue to work through the items with your own office and your staff. I know it's a tumultuous time, but I'm looking forward to the fact that I know you'll have an improved system as well. I know you're looking forward to that. And like anything, it's always good to look to see what lessons can be learned.
Absolutely.
And then to see us move forward in a positive way to make our county stronger. So thank you.
Thank you.
With that, let's turn back to item 8. This is a Public Works item in administration. We're going to be dealing with the Port Master Plan update. This is for Phase 2. With that, we're going to turn it over to staff. Mr. Don West, good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Don West, Public Works Director, for the record. Tonight, staff is requesting a board action related to our port for approval of the consultant scope of services and also approval to proceed with the Port Master Plan process. The last meeting that we had was in summer, in July of 2012. At that time, the board did request more information on the scope of services for the consultant and also information on the consultant team itself with regard to proceeding with the master plan. And we have the scope of services attached to your agenda packets, and also there's a copy of some minutes from the Harbor Advisory Committee meeting. The Harbor Advisory Committee meeting has reviewed this scope document, and they have approved it, recommended that the board proceed with the master plan. And also last night, the City Commission over at the City of Fort Pierce, likewise, they reviewed the scope document and approved proceeding with the master plan process. Tonight, we have Mr. Jeff Widener here with the Department of Transportation. He's here with members of the consultant team, and he would like to be available here tonight to give you some basic information and answer any questions the board might have about the scope document. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Widener, if I could, Mr. Chairman.
Great, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Widener. I appreciate you coming as well. I know you have your staff that have come from Fort Lauderdale and West Palm Beach on up, so thank you as well for coming.
Oh, my pleasure. You know, as Mr. West indicated, you know, I'm just here really to give you some brief information and respond to any questions you might have about the scope of services. Just wanted to talk a little bit about some things that have happened since July. We actively moved forward and used some consultant services, and working with Mr. West, we were able to move forward and get an emergency dredging permit from the Army Corps of Engineers. We were able to find funds to program that, and today we had the pre-construction meeting, and construction begins and should be completed within 45 days. Getting something through the Army Corps of Engineers in 7 months is something that I'm extremely proud of and happy to have worked with Mr. West on. In August, we got the spoil site project underway. The spoil site sets the stage for Taylor Creek Phase 3 to begin. Taylor Creek Phase 3 dredging will be out on the streets for bid in a couple of months, and that project will be starting up. And I believe that we're very close, and Mr. West is working with Mr. Mims at the City of Fort Pierce, have come to an agreement on finally getting the 2nd Street project out on the street in 4 or 5 months, and that project will be going to construction. Why this is important is these are the projects that were identified in your current Port Master Plan. So those projects have all been funded and they're going to be under construction. Now it's time to update the plan because there are no other projects on the table as far as transportation and intermodal and seaport projects go. So we're here tonight to ask you if we can move forward in this process.
there is one key date to keep in mind. We're moving forward on a fast track. If you recall, what we discussed doing and what's in the scope of services is let's look for something that is, I guess, vision or future neutral, that won't sway towards port only and won't sway towards recreation and mega yacht only. But let's get something on the table, because July 1st, the door closes for the next application cycle for the seaport funding. So, if you so choose to put off for another month or discuss or change, we're getting closer to that date. And for that, to meet that date, we need to put an application together, and you all need to vote on it and approve it, et cetera. So just keep that in mind. And at the same time, the second parallel effort is working together over a 9-month period to pull together some community desires and look at different alternatives for the future of the port. And with that, I'll respond to any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Wiedner. Comments from the board? Or questions for Mr. Wiedner?
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Weiner, first of all, I want to say thank you for the work that your team is doing and working with our staff. Don, thank you for the effort that you are putting in on this and the number of meetings that you've put in. I will share with you my concerns. Of course, we know that all that is reported in the newspaper isn't always accurate. So I want to ask you a series of questions and to get your point of view on it. I'm uncomfortable with the direction that there appears to be a clear motivation to expand cargo. Comments have been made that the process moving forward, if expanded cargo is not a main function of the master plan, that Florida Department of Transportation would not pay for this process going forward. Is that accurate?
I think the depiction is not accurate. However, and perhaps I have not communicated well. We're moving forward, and I have the directive to spend the funds to do a master plan for this specific location for seaport uses. If I set the precedent to be doing a master plan for a commercial, retail, residential site, we have 108 other cities in our district, and it sets a precedent that if you're going to do this for them, we want you to do one also. Now, if we look at, and with the stipulation that what we're doing has got to include some level of expanded port, where I discussed before, that could be even rehabbing the existing berth walls, which are in dire need of maintenance, looking at the tracks, just some level of seaport has got to be in...
Quick note, if you can pull your microphone over.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Pitching it on the system. Thank you.
In order for me to use these funds and not set a bad precedent to do master planning for every community in our district, it needs to include that. Now, with that said, at the end, it's up to you to adopt the plan. It's your plan. We can hand it over to you, and you can carve out whatever you want to carve out, and you can move forward and adopt a plan that includes no cargo. That is up to you all.
I guess that's
Did I communicate
that's where
that?
my concern is that, when the way you stated it just a few moments ago, is if we move forward with the master plan and you are willing to pay for it and move it forward, and the conversation about cargo is made part of the discussion and the meetings and so on and so forth. However, when the time comes, if this board says, we're going to move forward, but we're going to not expand cargo, where does that leave the Board of County Commissioners with the cost of what has been done so far?
Zero.
So I just want to make sure that's on the record.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Moving forward, again, the process was supposed to be open and transparent. I want to, and I know that the number of meetings is difficult because it costs money, so I understand that. The one concern that I've been hearing from the public is it's difficult to ramp up to prepare to come to one of these meetings if they don't have advance notice, meaning that they prefer to have a morning meeting, an evening meeting, so that those who work can get there in the evening and those who don't can get there in the daytime, but in different days and different times so that you have a larger group of people to participate. And so in your meeting planning, I would request that that be accomplished. As part of that, too, is a complete and a great deal of upfront advertising so that people know what's happening. We can use our SLC TV. We could probably work with the city of Fort Pierce to use that. And of course, we have the local newspaper and the TC Palm online. But I think it's important that this is such an important process for this county and this region, really, that we have as great an input as possible. So I would ask you for that.
And I just want to indicate that, you know, building trust is huge here into getting this plan to move forward. The first phase of the scope is submitting to you a public involvement plan so that you will see what we plan to do, where we plan to do it, when we plan to do it, and, you know, if you have any opportunity to share with your constituents, however, to augment that plan, you know, that is certainly up to staff and you to provide those comments.
Okay. Now, I don't know if this provision is something that you need to look at in the master plan update as a provision or as part of the scope or this board needs to consider. But in 1996, when the last master plan was completed, it was sent to a non-binding resolution so that the public could participate in a vote. And it was overwhelming to support that master plan with the limited cargo. So I don't know if that's something that this board needs to consider after it's done, or if it's something that needs to be part of the scope of work. That's something that I guess you'll have to determine. But I think that it's important that the community weigh in from a county perspective. I think it's that important to the region, and I hope that we are able to move forward with a non-binding resolution to take the temperature of the community.
I would think that would be up to you all and your administration.
Okay. One of the other comments I had is, as you move forward with a draft, everybody is concerned about the environmental issues. We are very blessed to have a number of environmental agencies within our community alone. Harbor Branch, for instance, the Smithsonian, ORCA, the Indian River Keeper, FAU, and so on. I'm wondering if, you know, looking and having these groups brought in as a part of the process in the master plan, that if a master plan is brought forward, whatever provisions are requested, that these groups, the professionals and the scientists in the field, have the ability to review any possibility of environmental damage that may occur with whatever plan comes forward. Is that something that could be achieved?
Yeah, and we could even take it a step further than that, and again, everybody being objective, but you know, I foresee, you know, make no small plans. And if we identify improvements that would increase activity, that the environment may have some mitigation applications necessary to apply for, let's include those type of mitigation efforts. I mean, are there any major capital investments that could be done to protect the lagoon? I don't know that. They probably do. And they probably do know we have an environmental expert team on the team, and you know, formerly with Leinhardt, who is well respected here, and they've been purchased by AECOM. They know the area well, and having their input to look at it and say, this might happen, but if we did this and built this kind of infrastructure, it would protect it from happening and allow that activity to go on. I'm kind of hoping to see that kind of balance.
I go back to the recent oil spill, oil whatever that was. It was nasty. But provisions were investigated prior to that well going in. And as part of the safety side of that was to drill 2 entries in case this type of thing happened. So my concern is, and of course they're very different items, but my point is when they put their safety plan in place and their environmental studies, they indicated for safety to have 2 drill points in case it failed. Yeah. My concern with this is what's going to be our second drill point for the port? What's going to be our safety net for the environmental side? And that's why I request, you know, that type of oversight.
Well, and another point of discussion in the scope is also how you all can control what kind of contracting you have, with whom, with what commodities, and what level of concern there are with those commodities. I know there's been a lot of discussion about ballast, and I don't know the difference between ballast and mega yacht ballast and what the differential would be, and if something could be, some sort of infrastructure could be put in place to protect that. But otherwise, when you're talking about commodities, oil versus vegetables, let's just say, there's certainly a difference in the potential for something like that. But I think there's control where, you have control of the port per se, and the city has control of land use. We have included in this scope some developing mechanisms for the approval and how you would all move forward on what types of commodities come through the port.
Okay. I'm through with my questions for now.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Comments,
Mr. Lawrence.
questions from other board members? Didn't mean to make it feel like you're in an inquisition.
I'm getting to know the community very well. But your concerns are very important, and we want to have a credible plan that you all have faith in.
Well, you made reference to Make No Little Plans, which was Daniel Burnham, and he's the gentleman that obviously developed the White City Exposition, which our county has the name after there in Chicago years ago, over a wetland, Mr. Zadowski.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Sorry.
With that, thank you very much for that comment. Return to the board here.
Were you
Comments?
going to open to the public? Because we had that discussion before. I didn't know if that was something you still wanted to do.
We can do so if you'd like to do that, Commissioners. It's up to you. Like to receive comments this time? We received, I think, from many of the individuals. Yeah. Why don't we do that? We're just going to open for brief comments. If you've already provided comments, we've heard those, but if there's someone else who'd like to provide a comment or two. Anything else from any of the other DOT employees? Ms. Johnson.
Zero muscles.
Dolores Johnson again. And that just got my attention when you said ballast. But that's been one of the fears of a lot of deep water ports. And they're supposed to empty their ballast like 3 or 4 miles outside. And there has not been fidelity on the part of a lot of shipping folk on that. Again, we look forward to working with you. And there can be, I like the point that you said about updating some of the infrastructure. Perhaps, right, because one of the things, and I did get some information regarding the dredging because of the silt had come in so much. So those kinds of things are very important. But keep in mind, and I appreciate the Commissioner's comments that the citizens definitely need to participate. This journey's been long and hard, and we're still here because we have something very, very valuable, being very cognizant of job potential, but we've got to be very careful of the types of things that we allow to be brought here. Again, economically and ecologically sustainable. So we look forward to working with the group.
Thank you. Mr. Arena, did you have a comment?
I have a question for Mr. Riener. You said that the dredging with the Corps of Engineers has been finalized, and are you talking about going deeper?
Back perhaps in June, I believe, at a Harbor Council meeting, there was a presentation on some severe shoaling within the channel and the need for some emergency dredging, that the shoaling had reduced the draft down to 14 feet, and that was several months old, and it appeared from the data that it was growing at 2 feet every 2 or 3 months. And so there was a request, and we responded, let's do some emergency dredging, not exceeding the existing draft, and Don worked on it diligently and probably can provide you more detail than I can, but it was an emergency dredge to address a severe shoaling issue.
Thank you.
There are a couple of areas that have about a 200 to 300 foot stretch where the shoaling has developed and it's dropped to, I had heard about was 18 or 17 feet for those areas.
So it really is maintenance dredging, I think is
Just
how we refer
maintenance.
to it, to make it clear that we're not exceeding that 28-foot that's approved in the current master plan.
Correct, which there are several sections of the channel, especially as you head out towards the inlet, that are in excess of 45 feet naturally that are in place. Yes, Mr. Grande.
Charles Grandy, Hutchison Island. I just wanted to provide a little background for some of the folks that weren't here when the last Port Master Plan was done. Keep in mind, that's more than 10 years ago, where the county put together a Citizens Comprehensive Plan Committee that Betty Lou Wells and her team headed up. And many of us joined that group, and I was assigned the transportation element in the Port Master Plan, which was a sub-element of transportation. That plan, which was produced, is now more than 10 years old. It probably does need to be updated. Certainly needs to be resubmitted to the state so that we can say we have a current Port Master Plan. I've looked at AECOM's proposals for input from the citizens, and I think they're doing the same kind of thing that we did back then, having the citizens come in, provide the input. Mr. Widener has been, I think, open and above board about not having any preconceived notions, but winding up with a plan that does reflect the desires of the people in this area. So I think this is an opportunity for us to move forward as long as we're careful and we understand that at the end of the day, it's going to be our decision, and you as our elected representatives, your decisions as far as what parts of the proposed updates you actually accept. And I think we're fortunate here because we do have the Conservation Alliance and the Marine Resources Council, the Rivers Coalition, the Waterfront Council, any number of groups who will carefully participate in this process and make sure that the outcome is consistent with what St. Lucie County really wants to be when it grows up. So I think we need to take advantage of this opportunity. I think we need to be very careful. I'd like to thank Commissioner Zadowski for the caution that he's put on the table. But I think this is an opportunity for us to move forward, bring it up to date, perhaps even make it a little bit better, and provide something to the state that says we're now current. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Grandy, last time we had this presentation, you had some concern about the vendor because of their relationship with the cargo industry. Has that been allayed, your fears or your concerns?
AECOM, as the consultant, I had which caused me to go back and do some real looking into who they were dealing with, and what their goals were. But I think your questioning and everyone's questioning of Mr. Widener and how closely this is tied to a guarantee of cargo expansion. The fact is, you get to make that decision. The fact is, the plan that they're going to propose is going to be based on what the people tell them in the information gathering portion. So if we do our jobs right, the people in the county, and you do your jobs right as the commissioners that have been elected, they're not in a position to mandate to us what's in our plan. Their position is to recommend to us, and your responsibility is to approve or disapprove. So they're paying the bill. We, the people, have oversight, you, the elected officials, have the final say, that looks like an acceptable plan to me.
Mr. Grandy, I would encourage you, the experience you've had in this for some decade or so, and your involvement with the Rivers Coalition and Conservation Alliance and so on, I would strongly encourage you to reach out to those folks to have them keep an eye on the meetings so that they do show and voice concerns and provide a positive input as to what this process may occur going forward.
Once again, you're absolutely right, Commissioner Zadowski. We certainly intend to do that. I have reached out to Mr. Widener and to the AECOM folks, and we will be working together closely. But again, the important thing to remember is, at the end of the day, this is not going to be their plan. It's going to be our plan.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a request from county staff to...
Can I just make one more comment? I'm sorry, and looks like things are going well. I should probably be quiet, but we continue to harp on or discuss the cargo effort. The breadth of this is to look at existing 11 acres and what would the community like to see, including educational facilities and vocational educational facilities. And we talk about a state of Florida Maritime Academy could be something that could be at this port that is still port related. We have 15 seaports in the state of Florida, and people need to be trained in Baltimore, and Houston is the closest. So there are other opportunities for you all to look at. We're not solely interested in increasing, we're just interested in helping you pay for this plan so that this community can move forward and perhaps get some state assets to realize that plan.
I would only share with you my research from the original plan and the history that when the state and the other agencies were indicating if we did this, then else, meaning that dollars would come to the port, those dollars have never shown. We haven't had the financial support as it was indicated in the history that could have occurred. So I have concern that I want to be cautious that hopefully that this will generate those dollars.
Well, I guess I don't want to sound defensive here, but in particular, my office has moved forward and advanced funds and fully funded 2nd Street, which was not going to be fully funded for several years, and we fully funded all of the transportation projects in the last master plan. I don't know the history prior to the 2002 plan, but we've come through, I believe, on the transportation side.
I guess I don't want you to be offended, and I should clarify my statement.
I'm excited about what the funds we have moved forward for you.
It's what's happened in the past. Yes, they're coming forward today, so I recognize that, but I just want to make sure that if we do our part, that we get the support from the state. Thank you.
It's up to how good the plan is, and again, strategic investment, and that we have an opportunity here. $1 spent at Port Everglades in the return, and $1 spent at Port of Fort Pierce. I would suggest that that $1 in Fort Pierce, the marginal impact and the ripple effect in the community now is probably a better investment for state dollars. So let's put together a plan to show that impact.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. It's the pleasure of the board.
Mr. Chairman, move approval.
Mr. Reen is coming forward.
We have a motion.
Second, because I wanted to make a comment, sir.
Motion and second. We'll have some discussion.
I have had a comfort level with this because since Mr. Widener's first visit to my office, it was very clear that he agreed with me that what we were looking for here was not telling us how to go on, but options, what our options might be. That's been the discussion from the very beginning with this process. Way back in 1995, was Ms. Johnson mentioned when the Waterfront Council came to be, because the big issue in the community was what was going to go on with our port and our airport at that point in time. And it was determined that a mixed-use port would come forward. Well, in 2002, the community decided what that mixed use would be, which turned out to be a limited cargo determination. I think we need to know, I mean, that's 10 years ago. We need, as has been mentioned, it's time to move forward and update our plan. And we need to know what our options might be. Obviously, things have changed. I think probably, I don't know what Commissioner Zadowski looked into, but he's probably looking into some of the way back stuff, so to speak, where to get funding from the Ports Council, you had to do, I forget what the terminology was, but it was heavy-duty commercial marine activity. Was that the terminology?
Industrial.
Industrial, yes. It was marine industrial, which obviously wasn't something that even way back then we were wildly pursuing. So things have changed quite a bit. Once again, I've been looking, everybody that's ever listened to me speak knows I'm big on options. And one of the reasons I have a level here, I know we've talked a lot about public work sessions or public involvement. It actually, in the scope, specifies 2 facilitated interactive public work sessions. It also talks about participating in as many as 5 specific community meetings. So I think it is stated in writing here that these things will take place. It's not, oh yes, we'll meet with the community and maybe get around to it. It's actually here in the scope that we're voting on this evening. And between the fact that, once again, I've been assured since day 1 of the first phase and ongoing that there were options brought to us, it's obviously our determination which of those options will be accepted, if any. So I have I've told other folks who have come to me in a panic because look what they're planning. Well, they're not planning. They're bringing us possibilities. It's our job, with the help of the community and their input, to make the plan, as Mr. Grandi pretty much just stated. So I have a real degree of comfort moving forward with this plan. With that said, I cast my second, and
We have a
I'd like to
motion and
move
a
on.
second. Any other discussion at this time?
Well, I want to make a comment. First of all, I came to a couple of AECOM meetings, and I saw them to be ones who were trying to take under consideration what St. Lucie County wanted, not what AECOM or the state wanted. And I think that with that said, I've also had people that I've spoken with that were with longshoremen. I've had people that I've spoken with the Beach Association. I spoke with a variety of people. I think we all want the same thing. We want the port to work. But I also think that in that process, as your county commissioner, as your constitutional officer, as your someone who represents you, my commitment is to make sure that full participation of everybody is respected. And in that process, you may not always get what you want, but if everybody get what they need to make it work together, I think that's more important. And so I'm looking at the fact that this is a great opportunity for city commissioners to come together, work on this project, county commissioners to come together, work on this project, both the beach, the cities, be it Port St. Lucie and Fort Pierce and surrounding areas, come together and enjoy the process and enjoy what we have in our port. And I think that, Jeff, I think you have done a great job of even instituting the resources that we have here in St. Lucie County in that process. So with that said, I just want everybody to understand that it's not about all of what you want. It's about us working together to get what we want collectively for the future generation of our kids and thus forth. And I think if we do that job, everything else will take care of itself, because ultimately it's not about an individual. It's about families. It's about communities. It's about the future.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Commissioner Zadowski.
I heard the motion and the second. Mr. Widener, I gave you a few things to think about as part of the scope, and you nodded yes to and you agreed to. Are you still in agreement with those as part of, and I'd like to ask the motion maker to add those amendments to the scope, if you're okay with that.
Yeah, I started writing down the first one. Maybe we should go through them, that we should have open public meetings that are flexible to alternative times and days. I think we have done that by providing it to you. I think we're going to absolutely allow draft documents to be reviewed by outside environmental agencies and get their input. And then I'm drawing a blank.
The other was that the draft, we talked about that, you just talked about that, the research groups. And then the other was to consider what the non-binding resolution would have to be done. Would it be done during the scope of work, or would it be done afterward? Is it something?
I would say that as working for the state, I don't think, I think it's better for us to hand over, and then you all develop how you are going to approve and what you're going to approve. I'm not sure that, in fact, I'll probably say no, that we're not going to develop a resolution that could be put on referendum for a ballot.
I just didn't know if it's something you had to consider as bringing that draft forward to us. I
No.
didn't know the process, so.
No, but it's up for you to.
Mr. Chairman, as the motion maker, Commissioner Zadowski, I have noted your comments, and I am comfortable with what's in front of us. The meetings that for the public input, and it's not. It goes over and above in reading through the scope that's proposed. The public meetings of groups of people coming there, but there's also individual conversations with members of the public in the different groups and so forth that's noted in here. So that I see is already being included. The comment on the, what was the second one? The outside agencies looking at it. That to me, I would expect that to be done. In fact, I think it would be more incumbent upon us to invite them to be there from day one, not wait till the draft plan is ready to be included in the conversations on those public comments. So I look at it being that that's also included. And in regards to a referendum, I think that decision needs to be made from the board, not from a scope of work from outside, because that's a discussion for down the road, in my book, that shouldn't be included in this till I see what the outcome of this is.
The question was, I didn't know if they had to have any consideration of that moving forward. That was my question.
They wouldn't pay for it, we would.
Yeah, and I think perhaps that the commissioner was referring, would we prepare it? And you know, I just don't, I want to be hands-off on the approval process, so that, be clear on your fourth point, your final plan does not have to include any cargo element. We just need to consider it in the process and put it into the options that you'll be looking at in the end.
Thank you. Commissioner Lewis?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to mention that the 1996 referendum took place because it asked people to encumber themselves to purchase a piece of property that was in question for heavy-duty industrial development. What is now Harbor Point was known then as the Cotton property, and someone was looking to purchase it. I don't remember what the specific use was. I don't know if we ever knew, but it was industrial marine use. And the citizens of this county agreed to tax themselves for the purposes of us purchasing land rather than letting it being purchased by a private entity and put to that use. So I'm not necessarily looking at a referendum on the use of the property or the ongoing plan. As has been mentioned, in 2002, a plan was crafted through a great deal of work with public groups and well, a lot of public groups actually, who put together the actual plan. I don't know. I wasn't looking at a referendum on the actual plan. Quite honestly, the folks, the activists and the folks that are passionate about the lagoon in our community, as Mr. Widener mentioned, he's getting to know the community. Well, they've never shown themselves to be particularly shy in my experience with them. So I think we will have a lot of input. I understand there's been a lot of input up to this point, and I was not considering as part of the motion at all to move to referendum on this item.
No, again, it was a matter of asking a question to get clarification as to does the plan have to account for the possibility afterward. We'll have that discussion at a later time after the plan, if approved, moves forward. So.
And just to note, I'm not in favor of a referendum on the item. Similar to a zoning ordinance, when we go through the changes, whether it's zoning or comp plan change, we hold public hearings, but to have a public referendum and voting on that aspect, I'm not too uncomfortable about that. With that being said, any other discussion on this? We have a motion, we have a second. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
We have 1 no. Motion carried. That brings us to the end of our agenda. We do have one announcement that county offices will be closed on January the 21st to observe Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Any other announcements?
Sir, I would like to recognize the 3rd anniversary of the Haiti earthquake. I know that you have been instrumental in a number of trips to Haiti, and your work there has been greatly appreciated. I saw Travis Walker here earlier. He, too, had spent a great deal of time in Haiti working with the folks, and I just want to raise it to the public's attention that the island of Haiti is still in great need, and if you could see it to help the different options that are happening. I know Dick Snook still is flying his airplane with supplies to Haiti, and he could certainly use some help on fuel costs and so on and so forth. So if you could see this is the 3rd anniversary of that devastating earthquake, and I just want to keep it in the minds of our community, because we do have a large Haitian population, but as importantly, we have caring people in this county. So I just wanted to remind folks of the 3rd anniversary of that.
In fact, I think, are they having a ceremony in the city of Port St. Lucie Thursday night? I think it's Thursday night the city of Port St. Lucie is having their event again. So that'll be a big one that they often have. So thank you for that. Any other comments from commissioners? Ms. Outlaw, Mr. McIntyre, any comments?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No? Great. Anybody else? Great, thank you. We don't want to hear it anyway. No, I'm just kidding. Hope you have a wonderful night. Wish you well for this new year. Thank you for attending this evening, and for those of you at home watching as well, thank you. We are adjourned.